I've had the ability or the opportunity to have a $50,000 trade, but I have clipped out of most of my trades early because I'm like, we're up 30,000, close it, or we're up 40,000, close it. So it's the dollar amounts are getting to me. And then I actually was a beauty school dropout, didn't even make it past beauty school. And then my uncle just presented the opportunity. He's like, let me show you what I do. And I was like, I don't even know if I took it that seriously at first, which is kind of crazy. I had a few moments where I did question my uncle, which was, I feel like, it's such a kind of crummy thing to do, where I'm like, I can't find consistency, so maybe he did something wrong. Maybe he's not actually showing me. And like, you can tell that's when you're going off the rails.
Yeah,
like when you start trying to blame somebody else for your own trading, it's fine. You're doing all right. You're doing good. Continue to get the chart time in. This was a good loss. This was a good loss. This was a bad loss. So it's just, if I had known that it was just going to be a journey, like I just wanted to rush it. And I think that's the hardest part is you just want to go from 0 to 100. If I had the mindset knowing that this is going to take me a few years, I would have enjoyed the whole process. It would have been great, actually. I'm going to be totally honest with you. There was a trend. There was a corn song that came out after COVID. You haven't heard the corn song?
What is a corn song?
It's a corn song.
Is this like a Gen Z thing?
Probably. And I was like, you know what would be really funny? Is if I traded corn and it would go viral, and I ended up losing $1,000 on that trade.
Oh, okay. Because of the song.
Yes,
We're going to blame the song.
We're going to blame the song, yep.
Today we have a very, very special episode. I'm finally joined by a female trader on the podcast, Tori Trades. Some of you may have seen her on YouTube and Instagram, known for her trendline trading strategies. What Tori has contributed to the online trading community is amazing because she's one of the very few traders who emphasizes simplicity in trading. Make trading simple. That's going to be the topic of our podcast today. And I hope you're ready for a very inspiring podcast today, because not only will you learn about Tori's full strategy breakdown, you're also going to find out how she became a successful trader as a college dropout. Since I'm finally joined with a female trading content creator, we're also going to discuss the impact of social media on traders' mental health. If you've been loving the Humble Traders podcast series, please remember to like this video and give us some free support. And don't forget to share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Now let's get started. Welcome, Tori, to the Humble Traders podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we have many episodes over the last couple of years, and everyone's always saying, why is there never a female guest? So
there's not many of us.
I know, it's true. But you are our first female guest. I'm so excited.
I didn't know that. Way cool.
Yeah, I've been trying to get more female traders out here, but I'm glad I found you. Yeah,
absolutely.
So without further ado, I always want to start with kind of introducing your trading style to our viewers. So if you could tell our viewers what kind of trader are you? What do you like to focus on? And what instruments do you trade?
Okay, so I trade a fairly simple strategy. It is trend lines, essentially. It's essentially trend lines. In the past, I tried to kind of narrow it down to what trend line setup works best for me. And I've tried channels, I've tried the retest of trend lines, I've tried the bounce of a trend line, and it seems like I have, over the past few years, kind of narrowed it down to just maybe 2 or 3 setups to where it's a 3 touch point break of a trend line, and then I am essentially trying to stay in the new trend. So we've got a break of a trend in either direction, bullish or bearish, and then I'm trying to stay in for the new trend for as long as I possibly can.
Okay.
So there's criteria to it. I get a lot of negative feedback on social media by trading something so simple, but then I think people don't understand that there's actually a lot of criteria that's involved. Like, a lot of things have to fall into place for me to take my setup. So it's not simply throwing lines and drawn on a coloring book on a chart. It's waiting for setups to come. I'm in a higher time frame, so I trade the 4-hour time frame. So it takes a little while for even a setup to come to be presented.
Yeah.
And I'm trading the futures market. I have traded mostly platinum this year, which is such a weird one. That's so random, actually, to be honest.
It's really random, yeah.
Very random. I just found so much success in it. I found it respects trend lines. If you were to look at it on a chart and just draw some lines on there, you're getting like 4 or 5 touch points on a trend line on a regular basis. It's so aesthetic. Okay. I did trade crude oil before that, and crude oil was one of my main instruments. So it was crude oil. Then I kind of transitioned to platinum. But in the past, I've traded gold. I've traded some of the indices. I experimented with corn.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, you know.
You traded everything.
Traded it all.
How long have you been trading now?
I've been trading for 9 years now.
Okay. And during that 9 years, have you always focused on futures and swing trading?
No, so it actually started in the stock market. So my uncle taught me how to trade, and he was a retail trader. He traded stocks. He would trade stuff like Amazon, Ford. I'm trying to, what were the other big ones that he did? Google, Apple. I remember I traded Chipotle. I loved Chipotle. We did Priceline, which I don't think Priceline is a thing anymore. I think I've looked at the ticker symbol. Maybe the ticker symbol changed, but I remember I traded Priceline too. But I started in the stock market and in the 5-minute time frame, so I was a day trader.
Oh, so you made the transition from day trading to swing trading over the last 9 years.
That transition to swing trading specifically has been officially in January. It'll be 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm still kind of new to swing trading.
Oh, okay. That's kind of similar to the journey I've been on. I'm trying to day trade less and focus on the swing trades, because I do realize you could make some big gains from swing trading.
Oh my gosh,
if you do your criteria and everything, your strategy right.
Yeah, patience. I mean, when I did make that transition though, Shay, it was the hardest. Going from first the 5-minute to the 1 hour. Then I did the 1 hour to the 4 hour.
Yeah.
That was hard. Oh my God. It took me all year. It took me all year to be comfortable in the 4 hour time frame, to stay in the 4 hour time frame, to not bounce back to the 1 hour looking for entries over there or trying to find exits in the 1 hour, to truly just be comfortable and confident in the 4 hour. It truly took almost a year.
Oh, okay.
And now this year I feel completely confident and comfortable in the 4 hour time frame.
Okay. We're going to have to dive into your specific strategy in detail in a little bit. This episode of the Humble Traders podcast is made possible by Stocks.io, my proprietary scanner. We just got a major update on stocks, so now you can access live newsfeed, charting, flexible scanners and layouts, built-in customizable scanner templates, and so much more. And all of these data are live, available from 4 a.m. pre-market hours all the way through after hours at 8 p.m. market time. So make sure to check out Stocks.io, the fastest and the most user-friendly scanner, with a link down below. Now back to the video. We're going to have to dive into your specific strategy in detail in a little bit. But I just want our viewers to get to know you better. So you mentioned you learned to trade from your uncle. So is it like a family? Does it run in the family where you guys have a lot of traders?
No. We're the only two. My uncle and I are the only two. He was a retail trader. He was self-taught way back in the day. I remember growing up, anytime I would go visit him and my cousin and my aunt, I would hear order filled, like in his office all the time.
Interactive brokers sound.
He was doing TradeStation, but yes, I think it's probably the same guy, same sound. All the time. He had all the monitors, and like I would just peek in that office and it would be the coolest. I'm like, whoa, I don't know what goes on in here, but it looks so neat. And then finally, when I was 23, he taught me and one of my sisters how to trade. And he did it for more of like an experimental kind of thing to see, if he can teach. He thought that maybe if I teach him younger, like maybe they'll go so much farther. But he I think I was the only one that actually ended up making it work. So he's taught, other nieces and nephews. He's taught his sons, his daughter, tons of family friends. I mean, he's everyone that was like, I want to do what you do. And he sat down and taught them. But it turns out it's just a really hard thing. It's just really hard.
It's really
to stick with.
Boring too in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So so you're out of all the family members, you're the one who made it work and who are still trading after 9 years.
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been so nice to have a mentor in person who's also like a family member. So you know for sure he has your best interest.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a very privileged thing that I have. Like to actually have someone tangible. I could call him now just to get advice on a trade, to talk about a trade, to vent about a trade, to see his thoughts on a setup. And that's not something that many people have. And I think I have to owe all of that to like my success in trading, is because I did have someone that I trusted fully. I didn't think he was gatekeeping, not sharing the full strategy, or he wasn't actually making the money he did trading. I saw all of it. I saw his lifestyle. I went to go live with him for a year to actually learn, and I got to look over his shoulder and see his trades, see his accounts, and see he was actually doing this. So fully trusted.
Oh, so you mentioned he trades stocks. So that's why you first started with stocks. Okay. And what made you to do this transition from stocks to other instruments and kind of start to deviate away from what he's taught you?
So he made the transition. That's the only reason I did.
Okay.
So he made the transition to futures as well. And he showed me a few trades. He's like, this is the futures market. It's called the YM, and it's the Dow. And, I'm used to seeing the Dow and just in the futures market. I'm like, okay. And I saw that you could trade almost 24 hours out of the day, with the exception of weekends. And I'm like,
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It was probably a bad thing at first, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, it was better to have some structure and like a cutoff. But I was like, oh, that's appealing. Okay, all right. So I can trade in the middle of the night? Sure, let's do it. And the leverage for futures, it was an easy convincing. So I was like, okay, so whatever you're doing, I'm going to do it too. And so now I've made the transition with him.
What's the leverage for futures? Because in stocks, it's like 1 to 4.
Okay. Same with TradeStation. So I use TradeStation. It's a regulated broker in the U.S., and they do equities and futures. Yeah. So I trade on the margin account, and it's about 4 times the buying power. It's not anywhere near what you can get, the leverage you can get with like crypto or with Forex, anywhere near at all. But it's still more than most.
Okay. Interesting. So is your uncle still trading nowadays?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
he hasn't retired yet.
No.
Okay.
I don't know if he ever will. I don't think he ever will.
Okay. Have you always kind of talked about like both your wins and losses with him, and how does he guide you through those things?
Nowadays, to be honest, I wish we talked more about trading, but now it's like anytime I get the chance to hang out with him, it's family. We're talking about catching up, what he's missed, what's going on. I will still always call him when I have a record trade. Like, I gotta call him and be like, okay, so I just had another milestone. He's like, congratulations. And then he'll ask me to send him a screenshot of what the setup looked like, and then he'll always be like, why did you close? And I'm like, well, only because of the dollar amount, and for the most part, I'm struggling this year with closing purely on strategy. But since I'm increasing position size this year, and I'm growing capital, and I'm working towards growth, the dollar amounts are taking a little bit of a toll on me. So when I'm seeing that I'm up like 30,000, 40,000, I'm just like, it's still bigger numbers. And if I could remove that aspect of it, my trading would be a lot better in the future. But anytime I'm making a milestone, I'm calling him. But nowadays we don't talk too much about trading.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Did you always want to become a trader?
No,
like
absolutely.
When you were young,
no way.
What did you want to do?
I think I wanted to be an actress, and I ended up actually just going to hair school. I did hair school. I was like, well, maybe acting's not going to work.
Oh, like hair...
Yeah, like cutting, dyeing.
Hair.
Yeah. Yes, human hair.
Okay.
And I would always do my sisters, my family, my mom.
Okay.
I loved doing my own hair. I was like, okay, maybe this is for me. And then I actually was a beauty school dropout. Didn't even make it past beauty school. And then my uncle just presented the opportunity. He's like, let me show you what I do. And I was like, I don't even know if I took it that seriously at first, which is kind of crazy. I think my journey to finding profitability and consistency took me a little bit longer than most that are like, they're investing their money into education, they're investing their time into learning, whereas I was given that all. I was given it. So I think that's maybe why family members, friends, like when you teach them, they probably just don't take it as seriously. It took me a while to find my way back into actually taking this seriously and making this work.
Oh, how long did it take you to?
About 3 years.
Okay, that's around the same as me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like two and a half. Years, but yeah, I didn't have an uncle to teach me. I wish I did.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point, I think you do have a point in saying that when it's just given to you, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely did. And same with my sisters, and same with all of our other family members.
But I'm glad you...
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And it's crazy because I just never would have thought. I never could have imagined that I'd be like going back in time and seeing like, what would I have been, what does Tori do to make money? I never would have thought trading. I definitely, like, I've always been very entrepreneurial, and I thought, I'd probably own businesses, maybe my own hair salon or something of that nature, or maybe sell a product, but I never thought trading. So this is crazy.
Was there any early setbacks in your trading journey during the first 3-4 years? Like what was the struggle, or was there anything that you really struggled with?
There were a lot of times where I wasn't finding consistency. I had a few moments where I did question my uncle, which was, I feel like, it's such a kind of crummy thing to do where I'm like, I can't find consistency, so maybe he did something wrong. Maybe he's not actually showing me. And like you can tell that's when you're going off the rails.
Yeah,
like when you start trying to blame somebody else for your own trading. So there were some tough times where I'm like, I don't think he's really doing it. It was a dark place where I couldn't find consistency. But then hindsight 2020, I'm like, I'm not even looking at the charts every day. I'm not committing the time. So when you do trade a trendline strategy, you're trying to put yourself in position for when the break happens. And if you miss that break, you've got to wait even longer for the next setup. And so if I'm not actively looking at the charts and waiting for these setups and taking these opportunities, then I'm not able to capitalize or I'm not able to kind of offset that win to loss ratio. So there's just a lot of things that came into play. I wasn't committing enough time to the charts. I wasn't taking it as seriously. I was getting discouraged because I wasn't finding, consistency or profitability after X amount of years.
Which is normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And my uncle would even tell me, when I did have moments where I'd call him and I'd be like, okay, so what am I doing wrong? And he's like, it's fine. You're doing all right. You're doing good. Continue to get the chart time in. This was a good loss. This was a good loss. This was a bad loss. So it's just, if I had known that it was just going to be a journey, like I just wanted to rush it. And I think that's the hardest part is you just want to go from 0 to 100. If I had the mindset knowing that this is going to take me a few years, I would have enjoyed the whole process. It would have been great, actually.
But in the beginning, when he first taught you, did he just teach you the ropes, like give you a strategy to start playing with?
Yeah.
Or so you were giving his strategy. But did you have to like modify it, test it, back test it to kind of make it your own style, the Tori style?
Yeah, I did actually. In a few different ways. But when he first taught me, we didn't even look at charts for a little while. He started psychology, like heavy psychology, trying to make me understand in a million different ways, like analogies and concepts, and even like he physically had 2 chairs. He said, this is your long chair and this is your short chair. And I had to keep getting up and moving from each chair. And he's like, is that fun? I'm like, well, no, not really. And he's like, okay, this is what it's going to be like. It's going to be a little bit frustrating. And like he had a great way of like just coming up with all these different analogies that you're going to lose and it's going to be okay. And you got to think of it like paying your way out of trouble. And he had all of these amazing concepts to help me understand that, okay, so when I get into this, before we even start looking at charts, like I'm somewhat prepared. Okay. And I think one of the biggest things was lesson 1 essentially was preservation of capital. And I think if people understood that that's your main goal, is to just preserve the capital, and then if you can, take these setups and get in and out of the market with, additional, then you've already got an edge, because most people will lose capital. Yeah. So if preservation of capital can be the number 1 goal, then the benefit will be additional cash on the side, if that made sense.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we need to hear like a practical breakdown of what that is like. How do you, for yourself, how do you manage your risk? Is it like specific to your strategy, or kind of, what's your risk management style? We can start with that.
Yeah. So it's all going to be, it's not percentage based. Okay. It's usually going to be dollar amount based. And it's where, I'm going to have you like envision a chart here. Okay. And so I'm always going to have 2 trend lines, a bullish and a bearish trend line. I'm trying to figure out which one of these trend lines the price is actually going to follow along. So we're imagining one's getting broken. So we'll say the downward trend line is getting broken. So now this may possibly be a shift. We might start trending up. I am going to put my risk on the other side of the new trend line that it may follow along. And it's going to be dependent on where the price is when it broke, how far away it is from the opposing trend line. So if we're thinking price is going down, we've got a break of a trend line, but now it might start coming up. Yeah. My risk is going to trail along that new trend line. Okay. And it's all going to be dependent on, is the price really far away from the trailing trend line? Or is it really close to it? If the price is really close to the opposing trend line, this is going to be a low risk setup. If it doesn't work out, fee is minimum. I call them fees. Like the fee that I have to pay to take that loss is going to be minimal, and I'll know pretty soon. But if the price is very far away, I've got to give it that much room to come back and then cross the trend line in order for me to solidify that loss. So it's dynamic, and I try to keep it within, like percentage-wise, I try to keep it in this may sound high, but it's my personal preference, between like 2 to 5%. Sometimes I'll do 6%.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm comfortable taking that 6%. Sometimes I will go heavier in a position even though it's a low risk setup and turn it into a high risk setup. But it's all going to be dependent on where the price is in conjunction to the opposing trend line.
I see. So does that mean, let's say if the price, the direction is going, it's kind of further away from the trend line you're trailing, do you take less size then?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that
exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I have the
okay.
option to turn it into a lower risk trade. So I'm trading 20 contracts of platinum now, which is a hefty position. But if I did get presented with a high risk setup to where the price is kind of far away, I could just simply reduce my position size, come in with 10.
Okay. So when you say 20 contracts of platinum, how much is a share? A share?
Contract.
A contract. Well, I guess it's per ounce. A contract is per ounce. But you
Yes.
say per contract.
Yeah.
Okay. How much is a contract of platinum?
So for platinum, I believe it is $1,600 per contract.
Okay.
And there's the option to do, when I first started, I started with all of the micros. So the micros are going to think of it like a discounted version of futures.
Oh, okay.
So there's micro crude oil, there's micro gold. All of the indices have micros, the micro ES, the micro YM, and it's 1/10 the price of a mini. And when I made the transition from stocks to futures, I started with all the micros, and it was a really good entry level because those are like, if I want to trade micro crude oil, it's $600. So $600 for just one contract of crude oil, and that would be, I'm thinking per barrel for crude oil. And then for platinum actually doesn't have a micro version, but like for gold, for example, I believe micro gold is like around, I think it still might be 1,000. So I think micro gold and silver might be a little bit on the higher end as far as price wise, but the micros just are a good, entry level to getting into futures because you can scale in and out because they're cheaper. But when you make the transition to the minis, though, then you feel like you're in the big leagues.
Okay.
And that took me a while to make that transition. And I realized when I started trading, I got to a point to where I could trade 10 micro contracts, and then I realized, okay, so now we're trading 10. We could simply just move over to the minis and just trade one. But then
I see, yeah.
There's pros and cons to it. One, you don't have to pay all the commissions on every single contract that you just got into. But then the con is that you can't scale in and out. So you are just in simply one contract and you're out one contract.
I see.
But I love that futures has the option to even do that, to have micros and minis.
Is the liquidity similar between the micros and the minis?
It looks exactly the same.
Oh,
yeah.
the same amount of volatility?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so they basically move together.
They move together, yeah.
Oh, okay. My audience knows I'm the person who never traded futures, so it's always
You gotta
fascinating.
try. You gotta get, or just take a peek at it. It's the coolest.
I'll take a peek.
Just take a peek.
Take a peek.
Maybe just a little peek.
I heard there's a lot more tax benefits to trading futures in the States.
Yeah.
What are the benefits like compared to stocks?
I don't think it's that much of a break. I know the short-term capital gain, I believe, is it 30% for the short-term capital gain for day trading?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not in the U.S.
And you're right. I will be honest, I don't know the exact number for the tax break, but everyone is like, there is some sort of a tax break. My CPA is like, there's a tax break. I'm like, okay, whatever you say, let's do it. Great.
Okay. I know there's no, you guys don't have the PDT rule.
Oh,
which
true.
Which stocks have.
Which was also very appealing whenever I made the transition.
Yeah, so there's no, so is it easier to open accounts when trading futures?
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on what broker you go with, but I believe it's like somewhere starting capital could be anywhere between like $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay. That's pretty similar to stocks too.
Oh, well, I'm still thinking the PDT rule, which I'm like, okay, do you have to have 25K to be able to day trade it? To be honest, it's been so long since I've been in the stock market. I mean, that's still a thing, right? To be able to day trade, you still have to have 25K.
You can still day trade. You can only trade 3 transactions per week. Per 5 days.
Okay.
If you're under the PDT rule.
Oh, I see. Okay. I wondered if it had changed. It's been a while.
Yeah. But luckily in Canada, it didn't have that issue.
Oh, nice.
So that definitely helped. Yeah. So, okay. So, sorry. Going back to your trendline strategy.
Yeah.
So, how do you take profit? Do you only take profit once that trend, the new trend you're writing is broken down?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're the first person that even put that together. So when I'm getting into a trade, I don't know what the the take profit is or the reward.
Okay.
Like when everyone's getting into it, they're like, what is the risk to reward? What's the stop loss? What's the take profit?
Yeah.
When I am getting into a trade, I'm actually not sure how long it's going to be trending for now. So I'm like, I'm here for the ride. I'm like, is this going to be a long trend? Is this only going to trend for a few days, for a week? But I don't have a take profit. So I'm simply just going to allow the price to trend in that direction for X amount of time. And then when it breaks that, all right, transaction's closed or transaction's closed. And the coolest part is when price progresses, when I get into a trade and it's starting to work and it's trending along this trend that I'm in on, the stop will actually move into profit. So then when the price breaks the trend line, it breaks in profit.
So whatever happens,
scenario.
you are in the money.
Yeah.
I see.
If this is truly the new trend. Now, there's fake outs that happen all the time. Does this trend line have 2 touch points? Is it not as valid? Has it only been trending along this trend line for like a week or a few days? So there's going to be times where you think this is the move, this is the transition, this is the shift in, the movement, and then it's not.
You mentioned in the beginning that your specific strategy, you're waiting for 3 touch points.
There is, So there's like I've got like A+ setups. I've got B setups. So A+ setup, which is one of my favorite setups, is we're looking for a 3 touch point trend line break. And not only does it have to have 3 touch points, but it's got to have at least like a week's worth of data. So like it can't have 3 touch points within like the past 3 days. I need some time, some data, like some weight to be on that trend line. And then, so not only that, we've got to have 3 touch points. We've got to have over a week's worth of data. But when the price does break, it's got to be fairly close to that opposing trend line. So it's got to be low risk. So there's like a checkbox, like a little playbook that I've got. When I am presented with an entry, can I check all of these boxes?
Okay, I think having charts will definitely help.
I know. I'm trying to envision use my hands here.
I'm like visualizing in my head. Okay, and since you're trading on the 4-hour candles, so if you're waiting for the 3 touch point confirmation, you could be watching and stalking a potential trade for a week. Before you even take the entry.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then I could be in that trade for about a week as well.
Yeah, so you probably don't take that many trades.
No.
That's good.
Yeah, I know. It's great. So far this year, I think I'm at, for swing trading, I think we're getting closer to the end of the year, so the number's getting a little bit higher, but I think we're closer to like 8 or 9 trades for the year.
A lot of day traders do that in a day.
In a day, I know. I was guilty of that as well. But it was normal, especially in the 5-minute time frame.
9 trades.
Yeah.
So you average less than 1 trade per month?
Yes.
Oh my God.
For the first half of the year, I was averaging exactly 1 trade a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I took a break, and then I made 2 trades in 1 month, so I'm throwing the average off a little bit. But yeah, it was the coolest. Now, there were times where I was still presented with a setup.
Yeah.
Like, let's say my first trade of January this year. There were about 2 or 3 setups that I could have taken, but I'm hesitant. It's January. I had a bad January the year before, so I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit more skeptical. Yeah. I'm just not feeling ready. So I was presented with more opportunities in January, but I ended up only taking 1. And then in February, still only took 1. I was presented with more opportunities, but I'd had a very good trade already, and I was like, okay, I was presented with maybe 2 or 3 more. I passed up on them. So there's going to be times where I'm still presented with an opportunity, but I pass up on it anyways.
So would it be hard because you don't know where the potential profit is when you take the trade.
Exactly.
So you can measure your risk, but you don't know if the risk reward is going to be, like in the trading industry, we say we aim for 1 to 2, 1 to 3 or more.
Right.
So it's hard. Is it hard to gauge that in the beginning?
Very much so. I think the easiest way you can gauge that is just understanding your instrument and seeing like what is an average move. Like, does platinum move, this many ticks in about a week? Is this about, as long as this is probably going to trend for? But for the most part, it does make it really tricky because I don't know my reward. So I only know my initial risk. When I take that entry, where is the price at in conjunction to the opposing trend line? And then if it can respect the trend line, great. I don't know where that reward is going to be. Is it going to be in a week? Is it going to break in a few days? Is it only going to be 1 to 1? Is it going to be 1 to 2? Is it going to be 1 to 4? So I truly don't know, and that does make it tricky, especially when I'm trying to articulate my strategy to someone, because it is so standard to know, okay, what is your risk, what is your reward?
In stocks, we have ATR, average true range.
Okay.
Do you have something like that for all the different contracts?
I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, okay. Average true range measures the average daily of let's say the stock average moves $5 per share.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Do you have something like that for futures?
I guess not officially. I'm sure there is. I just would know just because I've been trading platinum for so long, I can understand that. Okay, this is a pretty big move. I get it. I know. Or like same with crude oil. But if I was trading something new, I think that's probably something I should absolutely try to look up and be like, okay, what is it called? The average range?
Average true range.
Average true range. ATR. Okay. There's probably something like that in the futures market. I could imagine.
So how do you... Okay, so like you said, there's so many things you can trade in futures market then, right? So how do you pick what to trade?
Ooh.
No, how do I go? It's like walking to the grocery store. Do I want corn today or do I want oil?
Yeah. Or do I want pork
Wheat?
belly? Yeah.
Flour?
Or
How do you
soybeans?
pick what to trade?
I'd have to say you've got to figure out, I mean, it's going to take some trial and error.
Okay.
You got to figure out like when is there volatility in this specific instrument. So platinum was very appealing to me because it made a lot of moves in the middle of the night. And I really enjoyed being up at 2 o'clock in the morning for some crazy reason and just looking at the charts and being in a trade.
Yeah.
I love the option to be able to do that and at the time I was trying to do other jobs. I was doing side gigs, different work at the time. So I was like, you know what? I can be done with everything and then 2 a.m. sitting on the charts and seeing what we got going on. So it's figuring out a lot of variables. One, the barrier to entry. Like if you want to trade platinum, it's got a higher barrier to entry. Maybe if you want to trade crude oil, that might be a little bit more realistic for your account size. You could do micro crude oil. But then we got to see when is there volatility in crude oil? Is it, around the same time that you're looking to trade? Does it respect trend lines? So I think it's a little bit of trial and error to figure out which one works for you. I didn't think that I'd be trading platinum, but here we are trading platinum for most of the year. And it was simply just by kind of dabbling in it because crude oil, I thought that was my thing. That was my one instrument. I am excelling in crude oil. And then I started to just dabble in platinum. My watch list, on my watch list, I don't trade everything on the watch list, but I do like to kind of be in the know.
Okay.
Like I always am looking at gold and I'm always looking at silver. I haven't traded them in forever, but I'm always looking at them just to see how does it respect trend lines. I'll still mark up on my charts as though I'm going to trade all of these instruments. And I think that's what kind of helps you get a relationship with it, helps you identify, does it, fit your trading style? Does it fit your trend lines? Does it fit the time frame or the session that you're essentially trying to trade in? But I think it's a lot of trial and error.
And do you only use a 4-hour chart? You don't use a daily chart?
I will go look at the daily. For the most part, what I actually do is if I'm trading something new, I'll do a top-down analysis. So I'll start on the monthly, then the weekly, then the daily, then the 4-hour, but then I'll stay in the 4-hour. And I try as much as I possibly can to not look at other time frames for entries. So if I'm trading the 4-hour time frame, I want my entry and my exit to be purely on the 4-hour time frame. But I will go to the daily just to see, okay, is there a higher time frame, area of support or area of resistance that it might bounce off of, or how long has this trend line held? So, and there will be times where I have to go up higher to see, oh my gosh, this thing's been trending for months. So, but when it comes to entry and exits, it's purely going to be just on the 4-hour time frame.
Because in stocks, like we have to analyze from the daily chart, then sometimes weekly. If I'm swing trading, then I'll use like the intraday 5-minute or the 15-minute.
Whoa, nice. All right.
So it's always interesting to hear other traders' process, especially if you're trading different instruments.
Oh yeah. And I just try to keep it as simple as possible because I know there were times when I was trading the 5-minute time frame where I think it hurt my trading just because and maybe it's just because I didn't have a system like you've got. You've got a system where you need to incorporate those other time frames where I was just purely, I don't know if it was FOMO, and I'm like, I want an entry on the 5-minute even though I'm trying to trade in the 1 hour. So I found if I could just be consistent with one singular time frame, it just helped me and helped my process.
Yeah, for sure. Keep it simple. Yeah, especially if it's your process that's been working for you, you don't need to change it or modify it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of traders, they want things, they want strategies that are very complex because it makes it feel like it's very unique.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be unique to make money in trading. You need to find what works for you and keep it simple.
Exactly. Yeah. It's simply just trying to find an edge in any way, shape, or form. And the way that I actually like to think of it is like if we were to apply like a science experiment to trading, the least amount of variables that you have, the better, so that you can figure out what actually does work. And I did a science experiment back in, I think it was elementary school, where I had like 3 plants, and it had to be the same type of plant, and the least amount of variables as possible, so I had to have the same kind of lighting for each one, the same sunlight, the same amount that I was feeding all of them, and the only variable was the different types of feed that I was giving them. So I wanted to keep it like as simple as possible. So any modification I made, I could tell very easily because there were the least amount of variables involved. Whereas trading, if you throw so much into a strategy and you try to make one modification, there's so much going on that you don't know what helped, what hurt. So if you do need to make modifications, the simpler the strategy, the easier that you can see the results from that, modification.
So I know we mostly talked about technicals, right? Or your trend lines and the breakout and breakdowns. Does fundamentals ever matter when you trade your style and the instruments you trade?
Not at all.
Oh, really? You don't need to look at macroeconomics.
No.
Oh, wow.
And it could be very unconventional. So that was what my uncle taught me when we learned how to trade. The first thing he was telling me is that whatever else is going on outside, and I think that he made this very obvious for me because he's had issues with it in the past. But he told me that he would develop a bias from simply trying to figure out, what did the CEO do this year, or what new products are coming out, or what are the earnings reports. And he would already give himself a bias before the setup was presented. Mm-hmm. So maybe the setup was, telling him to take a short position, but everything was pointing to the company's doing incredible, company's doing well, the CEO, they just got a new CEO. Everything should be going up. So he'd be hesitant to take that short signal because of the outside or the fundamental news that's involved with that position or with that stock. Yeah. And that's what I stuck with. So I will be aware of when Fed days are, that's just, you maybe want to stay away from those. Any high volatility news days, just because trend lines will get smacked around as if they don't even exist on some of those high news or high impact news days. But when it comes to fundamentals and figuring out, what any outside news, I try to keep it as clean as possible, purely just price action.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do know some traders who only trade based on technicals. I know a few.
Okay.
But for my style, I use a little bit both.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fair. To be honest, I know it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt, but I am... if it's working, then if it's working, just keep doing what you're doing.
Don't change it. Yeah. Only change it if it's not working.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So your strategy, is there that was your A+ strategy, right? The one with one opposing trend line and one new trend that you're riding along.
Yep.
Okay. Do you foresee that's the strategy? Because you said you officially transitioned to that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you foresee that strategy to be one that you're gonna continue trading for the next couple of years? How would you optimize it? Or is there things to optimize?
I would say, I think there are. So even making the slight adjustments from the strategy that my uncle taught me to the one that I'm trading now was, and I think you gather this by just simply getting the chart time in and taking all the setups and then being able to go back and look at all your data and say, okay, these worked, these didn't, let's make some changes. And so when my uncle taught me how to trade, we were trading the bounce of a trend line. We were trading...
Bounce. Oh, okay.
Yeah, anticipating the price to respect it instead of break it. So we would trade when the price got to a trend line before it even broke, thinking it would respect it and continue along the trend line. The process of drawing the trend lines was a little bit more, not sporadic, but less structure, I guess, to where you could draw a trend line anywhere on the chart as long as it's got a few touch points, whereas I've got just a little bit more structure now. So now I'm not trading the bounce anymore. He would incorporate areas of support and resistance. I don't do that as often, I won't use them for entries. I'll use them maybe for exits. So there's been a few slight modifications that I've made over time, just realizing this worked for me and this didn't. So I don't trade the bounce of a trend line anymore. I don't use support and resistance for entries, and now I'm trading breaks. And I would say, and I also changed the terminology of the trend lines, which played a huge role. He didn't even call them trend lines whenever he taught me, because he was very, he's a very conspiracy theory kind of guy. He's like, if everybody else calls them trend line, guess what? We're not calling them trend lines. I'm like, okay, got it. So he called them an LOC, a line of change. That's what he called it. Okay. And so I had to change those from line of change. I had to go from trend line to line of change, and now I call them an action line and a safety line.
Okay.
So when a trend line is broken, it's time for me to take action. And then the opposing trend line is the line that's keeping me safe, the safety line. That's where the risk trails along. And it really helps my psychology. So I'm like, okay, this is a safety line. This trend line, the price is following along, is going to keep me safe. As long as the price can trend along this line, my capital is safe, my risk will now become in profit. So it really helps the psychology of just even naming the lines, giving them names.
Oh, interesting. A safety line. That does sound better than a stop loss.
Yeah, it sure does.
Then you lost money. Yeah, no, that's a very interesting take. Yeah. So your safety line, how do you, like, is it because you waited using the 4-hour chart and you waited 3 touch points that you have even a line to predict from?
Right, exactly. So there were times in the past where I didn't have enough data and I would try to just throw something on there and be like, well, it's a 45-ish degree angle. It'll probably trend along this angle-ish.
Do you say 45 degree thing? Is that a thing?
Ish, but I don't do that anymore. I'm not trying to guess. So I have to simply wait for touch points. I have to wait for price to populate to say, okay, we have a pullback, now we have a touch point and another touch point, which takes days.
Yeah, you're right. Your strategy is very simple.
It truly is.
If it works, it works. And then you just have to wait. I think the only downside for a lot of traders is they don't have the patience to wait.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's like the strike rate. You just you've got to wait. You got to sit on your hands, and that's not a fun thing to do. I mean, some traders excel when they're getting more opportunities, and I didn't. I am doing exponentially better being patient and making the transition to swing trading. I'm seeing so much progress in not only waiting for these better setups, but also moving to the higher time frames. The swing trading now, it's for me. It is definitely for me. I'm like, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, it's just, but it's simple, yes, but it's taken some modifications and waiting for this, it feels like you got to truly wait for the stars to align. Like you've got to wait for these, X amount of touch points, this much data behind it, and there's even a level of intuition as well. Like when I get a break, do I feel good about it? So there's a lot of variables that go into it, so it's not as simple. I mean, it's simple, but it's still not easy is what I try to say. There's still criteria that needs to be met. And I think that's what I like to emphasize the most is that if you were to just throw lines on a chart, it probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, no,
you've got to have a playbook. You've got to have these boxes that you're checking off that, okay, what is my entry criteria? What is my exit criteria? So it sometimes feels like stars do have to align because I do have to wait so long for some of these setups.
Could you walk us, the viewers, through some of the, I guess, the most recent big loss that you've had?
Ooh, yeah,
and what that feels like and what went wrong?
Okay. Yeah. I'll be honest, it wasn't. So the most recent loss was this year. I think the biggest loss this year was one that I'm proud of. Okay. Because it was purely based on the strategy. And I'll be honest, I'm excited to make a video about that one. Just be like, all right, guys, I lost $6,000, but I did everything right. So those are the best losses, to be honest. Those are the best ones that you're like, it's a loss, and I'm here to tell you everything about it. So it was everything aligned. I had 3 touch points. I mean, everything was telling me, take this entry, and it was a fake out. Price didn't end up respecting the trend line. Yeah. And it was a higher risk setup. So I did have the option to probably reduce that risk. I probably could have came in a little bit lighter, but I was feeling good about the setup. Everything on my entry criteria was checked off besides I can usually check off the low risk setup if I do reduce position size. If I don't, I can't check that box off.
I see.
But everything aligned. It was a perfect entry, and then it just ended up not working out.
Yeah.
And those are the best.
Yeah, those are the best kind of trades, actually. Yeah. Okay. Is there a significant win for the strategy as well recently?
Yes.
That you had?
Yeah. I am, and I'm working on, so this year specifically, I'm working on increasing risk and increasing position size and bigger capital. So the dollar amounts are taking a little bit of a toll on me. I did have a goal. I had a goal of having a $50,000 trade this year, and that still would be wild. I haven't hit it yet, but I did have a $40,000 trade. And the coolest part though about this strategy is that I am simply just putting myself in position every time. So I've had the ability or the opportunity to have a $50,000 trade, but I have clipped out of most of my trades early because I'm like, we're up 30,000, close it. Okay. Or we're up 40,000, close it. So it's the dollar amounts are getting to me. But the coolest thing about my strategy is that it puts me in position to capitalize on that. So if we are truly changing direction and we're shifting and we're going from bullish to bearish and this is the new trend, all I did was just take the signal, the break, and if it truly does follow along this new trend line, it could trend for weeks, and that could the profit is unknown. It could continue. So I could have a 1 to 4, I could have a 1 to 6, or I mean that's probably crazy, but I could just. It's just the coolest thing to know that this strategy puts me in position every time if this is going to be the new shift or a big shift. And I'm getting closer every time, but I've got to be honest, the telltale is that I'm probably coming in too heavy. If the position is freaking me out dollar amount wise and I'm getting too excited that I want to close it early, then I probably need to just go back to bringing that position size down a little bit so that even though I'm not up 40 grand and maybe I'm only up 20 grand, I'm still taking the signal based on the entry and the exit based on the entry, or taking the entry based on the brain is
Action
farting.
line.
Thank you. Strategy is the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Strategy.
Yes.
Okay. Entry is based on the strategy and exit is based on the strategy as well.
I think it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be scared. But if you're uncomfortable, I think you're
doing something right.
Something right. Yeah.
Usually in life,
exactly.
if you're a little bit uncomfortable, you're on the right path.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah. You still have 3 more months to go.
I know. I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you do when, like during the weeks or even months when there's no trades? Do you still show up to the market every day?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you're just going to the market and look at the different instruments that's on your watch list.
Yep.
Okay.
And there are going to be times where I'm presented with a little bit of FOMO, where let's say I'm in a platinum trade, but I see an insane setup on gold, but I just don't trade gold. So I get to just sit there and watch, even though I'm in platinum over here, while gold is just ripping, making all-time highs, and I'm just in my little tiny trade over here in platinum. But so there's a little bit of FOMO that's involved, by looking at all of these different instruments. But I think it's really beneficial just to see what the other instruments are doing, especially if you're a new trader and you're trying to find the instrument that works best for you. You have to. You have to continue to look at the charts every day, mark them up, and mark them up as though you're going to be taking these entries, even though you may or may not be. And that's what I do with all the other instruments on my watch list. I even still look at corn, even though I have no idea why. But it's just, I feel like I need to be in the know. I need to see, is it respecting trend lines here, or what kind of market conditions do we have during this time of the year? So I feel like it's beneficial to just kind of be in the know of what these different instruments are doing and how they respect trend lines, because I never would have found platinum if I didn't. So, and I feel like I just found my soulmate. I truly do. I truly do. I'm telling you. It's just the coolest. So I'm so glad that I do continue to watch these items on my watch list every day and mark them up as though I would be trading them, even though I'm not.
Is there a reason you don't trade gold or corn anymore?
Corn was... I'm going to be totally honest with you. There was a trend. There was a corn song that came out after COVID. You haven't heard the corn song?
What is a corn song?
It's a corn song.
Is this like a Gen Z thing?
Probably. And I was like, what would be really funny? Is if I traded corn and it would go viral, and I ended up losing $1,000 on that trade.
Oh, okay. Because of the song.
Yes,
We're going to blame the song.
We're going to blame the song, yep. And so it was purely because a song about corn was trending. And I was like, this would be really funny. So I actually started looking at corn, marking it up. So not sure the point that I was trying to make there, but it was purely only because it was going viral.
What about gold?
Gold, I've been burned a few times in gold, and I maybe have a bad relationship with gold. One of my most pivotal trades, it wasn't a crazy loss, and it wasn't, but the way that trade played out, I think it shaped who I am as a trader and shaped like my path that I was going to take. Like, it was very pivotal, I think, is the best way that I can explain it. So I took a gold trade and I removed my stop loss, and I couldn't solidify my loss. Like, I was holding on for days, and like day 1 went by and I'm down 1,000. Day 2 went by and I'm down 2,000, and day 3 went by and I'm down 3,000. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was pretty early in my trading career, and I thought, like, I think that I'm about to blow my account. Like, I can't. Like, I froze. I couldn't close the trade. And it was like, I had so many opportunities to close at least with close it with just $2,000 loss and just take it off your hands because who knows what could happen. And this trade was so pivotal. One, I thought that I was going to blow an account. Two, I thought that maybe I'm going to give up on trading. I texted my sister and I was like, I sent her a screenshot of how much I was losing and I was like, I think I'm going to give up on trading today.
Oh no.
Like it was such a pivotal day. Like
I holding the bag.
Yeah. And it was, but then I was presented with an opportunity to, price came back. It came back to me and we were at break even.
Oh.
And then even still, I was like, we're going to make money. Yes. Oh, I'm like, I just did everything wrong. I did everything wrong in that one trade that when I finally did close, which was, I believe it was only $1,500 loss. Thank gosh. Like I think I was down maybe 3,500 at one point, and it came up. It started going in my favor, and I'm like, there's just so many things I could have done better in that whole trade. And then finally, I clipped out at $1,500. And then when I went back and just analyzed everything about that trade, I was like, we can never do that again.
Yeah.
We can't do that again. So it changed like my whole path. I was like, one, I'm incredibly lucky the price ever even came back to me. That could have been a blown account and then you probably would have been discouraged and never traded again. Like how crazy. So I really was like, okay, I got to take this lesson and truly like change everything. We can't do that again. We can't make that mistake again. If we are ever in a position like that again and price does come back to us, what are you thinking? You got greedy? Really? You thought now we're going to start making money? So it's just, I changed everything, like about myself, my psychology, my trading. It really changed like my trajectory in trading. I was like, I can't ever do that again.
I think every trader has to go through that at least once or twice or 3 times. I went through that many times in my first 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, in which you're close to losing and you lost the amount, you keep on bag holding and it goes to red. And then it comes back up, you don't sell, and then it goes back down again.
Exactly.
And you
it's
question
a roller coaster.
every single decision.
Exactly.
But I think you have to go through that to kind of appreciate that experience and kind of start becoming more disciplined too.
Yeah. I really feel like I leveled up after that. I was just like, I have seen the darkness and I am going to move into the light. I felt very matured afterwards. I was like, wow, like going back and just looking at that and like, okay. And there was a time where I actually did it again, but it's just like, it changes just exactly like you said. I think you have to go through that. You got to know what you did wrong and change that moving forward.
Have you ever blown up an account? I know you were close.
Very close. I haven't.
Oh.
And I think
That's really rare.
Very.
Very rare.
And I think, man, there was another time where I should have, and it was a recent one, where I tried to experiment.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. I'm embarrassed to say it, but we'll say it anyways. And it was when I was trying to experiment with Ethereum. So I still haven't traded crypto yet.
The dark side of crypto.
I know, gosh. But there is such thing as crypto futures. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to get into crypto yet, but like I could trade crypto futures. So I tried to dabble into it, and the mistakes that I made with this trade, there were some different variables that came into play. One, I have a following on social media now, a fairly decent one, and that puts a lot of pressure. So I made a video where I talked about just simply like a great setup that could be presented in Ethereum. And I was like, you know what? I marked up my chart and I was like, okay, these are where my trend lines are. This is where my entry would be and this is where my exit would be. And it did really well. And then the entry actually got presented not very shortly after I actually made the video. And I was like, okay, so there was a little bit of ego involved where I was like, okay, so Tori's right. That analysis, that was right. And I went ahead and took the setup, and it didn't work out. But my ego could not let go of it. I was like, I'm going to have to tell everyone on social media that was wrong and that I actually didn't know what I was talking about in that whole setup. And I couldn't let it go. And I did almost the same thing. There was a point where I was down $30,000 on Ethereum trade. That's huge for me. And I couldn't let it go. Now, it was different because I felt like it was more ego this time, whereas that first time in gold, it was just like terror and like I froze up. But this time was purely ego. I'm like, I cannot let social media see me make such a mistake.
Yeah.
So it's
I understand.
Similar, but just different kind of variables that played a role into me making that mistake. But luckily, guess what? Came back up to me, and I closed it with $48. I'm telling you, I'm lucky. That was purely luck, and I know it
God.
is. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve that.
Well, you went from unrealized negative $30,000
to $48.
Positive $48. Wow.
I know.
That's incredibly lucky.
Yes.
But like, even if you close that trade for a loss, okay, maybe not 30,000, but even if you lost 10 grand, but like it's just a trade that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, but it wasn't according to the strategy, and I held for too long. It would have been much better. That trade, if I had purely traded it according to the strategy, I think it only should have been like maximum $7,000. 7 to like, we'll say 10 maybe if I really was just holding on to that thing, and then finally was like, okay, safety line is crossed officially. But I wish I hadn't had ego involved, and it would have been okay to be like, okay, everyone, I said this was going to be a great setup, and it didn't end up being that. And I wish that I could have been able to do that, but there was so much ego involved.
Yeah, that's where I think social media, I feel the same way too sometimes, so I know what you're talking about. That's why I don't really do like social media predictions for like different stocks.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Truth be told, no one knows for sure. Like you can make educated guesses using charts, technical analysis, indicators, but no one knows for sure like where the stocks or whatever instrument's going to go up or down.
Yeah.
Good lesson.
Yeah, great lesson. Golly, yeah, I won't be doing many of those again.
Okay. I know from some of your content, I've seen that you talk about fund prop firms and getting funded.
Yeah.
So is it, and it's fairly common for futures trading and even Forex.
Yeah.
Not really common for stocks. So I'm just really curious about this whole industry. Is the purpose of these funding firms to allow, let's say, traders who don't have a lot of money to apply and get an account? Like, is that it? That's the entire purpose of this business?
I'm thinking, so I'm still fairly new to the prop firm space as well.
Yeah.
And for myself, I don't need a prop firm. I've got my own capital. I do excellent with my own personal account. But my community and everyone, it seems like the lowest barrier to entry, even lower than you would need to open like a futures account. If you just simply applied to pass an evaluation on a prop account, that's a much lower barrier to entry than trying to open your own personal account in a futures brokerage. So I think it's appealing because it's the lowest barrier to entry. I think it promotes discipline. Like the rules are incredibly strict. Now, I was very intimidated by the rules because since my strategy is so simple and it's dynamic and the risk is dynamic, and I can, if I can reduce position size, I can, create these lower risk setups. But I didn't think that my strategy would ever in any world be able to be applied to such a strict, set of rules. And so far, I'm in an evaluation right now. I haven't passed yet. Okay. So I don't have much room to talk here, but I haven't failed. And so far, we're slowly, meeting the markers. But it seems like it promotes discipline, but it can get a very gambly kind of connotation to it, to where if you treat it that way, which I think most people do, I think people just, they sign up and there's not much structure in their strategy or their system, and they just kind of try to Hail Mary, try to pass, and then get funded. And then that just ends up being a vicious cycle where they fail, and then they try again, and they fail, and they try again. It's almost like a slot machine. But I think it promotes the disciplined traders if they can go in actually taking it seriously.
So what's the appeal? So I get it. For people who don't have a lot of money, the appeal is that they get to essentially trade bigger accounts if they pass. So for experienced trader, let's say, once you made some money, you technically don't need these funding account anymore.
True. And what I'm coming to find is, so there's other bigger traders in the space that do trade prop firms. And I was curious. I'm like, well, but why? Why would you need to trade a prop firm when, you've got X amount of capital? And it's the risk that you take on. So if you take a big loss, it's not your big loss. You've just failed your account. Whereas if you take a big loss in your personal account, that money's gone. That's out of your pocket. So I think the taking on the loss or taking on the risk is on the prop firm and not on you for your personal account. And then there's also some that offer like copy trading to where you could, so you could leverage one singular account into 20 separate accounts. So that's what I'm seeing most of the guys in the space do.
Oh my God.
So they could make only $500 on one account, but it's getting copied to 20 trades. Now that sounds way too complicated to me, and I don't know if I'll be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
Because that's out of my spectrum. I'm trying to keep it simple here. We are just here for the simplicity.
Okay.
But that seems to be the appeal for some of the bigger traders in the space, is that you can copy trade.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is this not regulated?
I know. I don't know.
That okay. That's very interesting, but also there's definitely some stuff that we don't know yet.
Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot that we don't know. Oh yeah.
Okay, I see. So why do you wanna? I know you said you're in a challenge right now. Are you just doing it just to experiment and see what it's like?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would give when I do things like this and I'm getting on a podcast and someone asks me, about the prop space, I want to have a much better educated answer to be like, I've tried this product, it works or it doesn't, or you have to have a much more strict, complex strategy to be able to actually make this work, or you actually don't. So I just want to be able to actually give a true, honest answer. And right now my answer is that I'm still in the evaluation period. I'm still actually trying it out myself, and I'm a decent trader, and I've got a fairly simple strategy. So you would think that I would pass very quickly, but I'm still in my evaluation. So it's still, we'll see. I'll have a better answer for you next time.
Outside of trading, what do you spend a lot of your time on? Do you have any endeavors outside of trading?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to do it all. So content creation is my next kind of favorite thing to do outside of trading. I am trying to invest in real estate this year. I am trying to learn about infinite banking and life insurance policies and just setting myself up for success in the future. Because funny enough, actually, when it comes to long-term investing, even though I'm a swing trader, I know nothing. Nothing about, like, if I was to just buy and hold for, months or even years. Like, I think it's just a very different strategy. So I'm always curious. So I'm trying to learn as many different things as I can.
Your swing trading strategy is very simple, but long-term investing is even simpler. Just buy and
you would think so, right? I guess it's just
a
matter of, like, picking the right ones. That's a little bit intimidating. Just like, okay, is this the right one? Am I buying and holding the right one?
Oh, I do like the index funds.
Oh, yes, that's fair.
That's it.
Absolutely. Like, you're like, listen, I'm just going to keep putting money in that one.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned you're growing your social media account. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How has that journey been? You're pretty big on Instagram as well as YouTube now.
Yeah. It turns out that I kind of have a knack for social media. Like, I was able to grow my Twitter account, organically by itself, and my YouTube account separately from my Instagram account and my TikTok account. So all very separate entities and all grown individually and separately. So it's been a very fun challenge. Which I guess you can tell I like because we are trading.
Yes.
That's a very fun challenge in itself. I don't know if we'll call it fun, but it's very challenging. Mm-hmm. But it's very rewarding to see, like, okay, if I put in this much effort, where it's different than trading, I get this much in return. Or, like, if I'm putting out this many videos, I get this many subscribers or this much engagement. So it's very satisfying to be able to, put work towards something and then see the return. Whereas trading, there's going to be times where I put all the effort in. I'm in for a whole week and then I get nothing at the end of it.
This definitely happened to me before too. Yeah. I think with social media, when I first started doing it, it was a distraction from trading because, like, I don't want to trade. I don't know about you. I don't want to trade the entire day.
Yeah, absolutely
I started
not.
losing money after a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how do you deal with, let's say, on social media, like, you get the good and you get the bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hopefully the good always outweigh the bad.
Yes. Otherwise, I still wouldn't keep going.
Yeah. How do you deal with, like, the negative effects of social media?
I'm still trying to figure out, different coping strategies to help. I still feel like I'm still fairly new to the social media space. Even so the growth is happening very quickly, but I still feel fairly new to it, and I'm seeing the effects that it has on all aspects, like my self-image and even my trading. As I told you about that story, I'm like, how could I have let social media play such a role in a dumb trade? So it has a lot of effects, and so far, yes, the good are outweighing the bad. So we are still going. We're good. But I'm trying to find different coping strategies. I'm trying to read comments less, take things less personally. To be honest, reading books about how, like, the Four Agreements and the Fifth Agreement are excellent books to where people are their own characters in their own story, and that someone could walk up to you on the street and say you're an idiot. And it has nothing to do with you because they don't know who you are at all. It's all of them. So I'm trying to see, social media in that same way, that people are projecting their own insecurities. It has nothing to do with me. So taking it less personally has been one of the best coping strategies.
I talked to this really big trader, and he also had some social media presence. And he was saying that you'll never see in the comments, so you'll never see a trader who's doing better than you talk down at you. Ever. Yeah. So it's usually the negativity is usually from people who are either had a bad day in the market or they are really struggling and they cannot fathom that somebody else making it work because they couldn't make it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a tough thing with social media. Sometimes it's like, oh, man, I had a bad trade today. I have to see these negativity.
I know. And then they're like, yeah, you messed up. You suck.
I do mess up. We are traders.
Yeah.
We mess up sometimes.
Oh, gosh. But the amount of hate that we get for it takes a toll. Where sometimes I'd love for people to just be like, it's okay, better luck next time.
I know. We're all trying. Like I made a video about I was reviewing my losses.
Okay.
Like I had like a $9,000 loss at the beginning of the month.
Okay.
And I was just reviewing it, like, just, hey, I lose money sometimes.
Yeah.
And like most people are supportive.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's just like one or two who just like, how can you lose that much money? Do you even know how to trade?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know what people expect. I think people have this image that successful traders should be making money all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just not true.
Oh, no. Yeah. And the craziest thing is social media is unlocking new insecurities every day. So the insecurity that I had at first coming into social media was my strategy. And it was such a shell shock. Like, I had only ever known, trend lines. And to talk about it openly on social media and then to get negative feedback saying that doesn't work. And I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't work? It's working for me. Yeah, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So that was the first insecurity, was like, oh, wait, why does my strategy have such a negative light shed on it? Or why is it too basic? People think that it's too simple, or it was very confusing. That was the first thing off the bat. Then it was, being a female in the space. It was like, you're not actually making money trading. You're making money through social media, or being a female is the only reason you are making money at all. So, but then now there's a new insecurity unlocked, and it's, you've been trading for 9 years. You should be making way more than you are now. And I'm like, I can't make anyone happy.
I get that too.
I can't make anyone happy. I'm like, I'm really proud of the progress I've made, okay? Yes, I'm not making millions yet, but I'm making hundreds of thousands, which is way cool. I'm so proud of that. And I don't want social media to downplay that. So I want to keep that like light burning and be like, I'm so proud of myself, and not let social media be like, you should be doing way better after 9 years.
I think we're all, you and I, everyone watching this, we're all on our own journey, especially with trading. There are people who are comfortable risking $1 million per trade, and they can make $3 million per trade. But I'm not there yet.
Nope, me either.
So it's like, everyone's different. Everyone has different risk tolerance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know some traders, even after making millions of dollars in their 30s, now in their 40s, are retired. They reduce their risk. So they're taking that $200 trades. I'm just like, that's amazing.
That's the coolest,
because that's
actually.
what they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flipping that psychology is actually tricky. And that's something I'm working on right now, is since I am in a position where I'm making, $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 trades, I have to be able to go back, like when I'm ready, to go back to being satisfied with $1,000 trade, or like a few $100s. And that's going to be really tricky, because it's like are you ever going to be satisfied? Like, that's something that I think psychologically I'm going to have to work on, because I want to always still be happy and comfortable with those smaller amounts. It doesn't always have to be, going heavy in position size. So that's something that I'm glad you brought up, because that's something I'm going to have to work on moving forward. I don't want to always, take these higher risk positions, or I'm only in a state of growth right now. Like, I want to be able to scale it back like they have eventually. Yeah. I think maybe the last thing I want to touch on, or emphasize in just a little bit more, is that there are so many different strategies. Like, even you and I trade probably incredibly different strategies.
Very different.
Yeah. And like, but it's okay. And like, we found our success in either one. And I think highlighting that trading is hard, incredibly difficult. Most people don't make it in trading. But if you can find an edge even if it's a simple strategy, like don't downplay it. Like there's complex strategies that work and there's simple strategies that work. And I understand with my strategy that I may not be capitalizing on the most amount of money. It may not, I know it's not the best strategy, but it's so simple that I'm able to make it work for me. And I think if it was any more complex, I don't know if I would have been able to stick with it, if that makes sense. Like the simplicity of it just works for me. And I understand that like it's not going to make me, maybe it won't make me tens of millions of dollars, maybe even not millions of dollars, but it's successful and I'm able to make it work for me. So I think highlighting that it's just because it's simple doesn't mean it's wrong. Mm-hmm. So just the thing is finding the edge. How can you continue to replicate the profitable trades, and can you do that consistently? I think is the biggest thing.
I think the strategy that works for you is the best strategy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I also think that there's no strategy out there that's going to work for everyone.
Right.
So there's no such thing as a best strategy for everyone out there. Like I can learn and watch your video and take your course and learn everything you taught me. But if it doesn't work with my personality or my style, then it's not the strategy for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think people really a lot of traders really need to mature and realize that even if they are learning something online, they can take it and modify it and make it their own to fit their own style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't ever think I'd even be in a position to change what my uncle taught me. I was like, who am I to change this strategy? I don't know if that's something I'm capable of doing or that I even have the credentials to do. But when you do something for so long, you're like, oh. And I think another thing that I want to highlight is being able to go back and look at your trading as a whole. Like, go back and look at the month or the year and be like, okay, what worked? How can you calculate, or how can you go back and see what did these winners have in common? What did these losers have in common? So I think being able to actually go back and see what worked and what didn't so that you can modify. And I think that's huge. That's how you find your edge, is being able to go back and say, okay, this playbook worked, this one didn't, or these losses here I maybe was holding a little bit too long, or these winners I was entering a little bit too late. Is it the lack of confidence in the strategy? Like being able to go back and truly comb through the trades as a whole and just see, okay, these work, let's continue to do this more. These don't, let's do this less.
Final tips you want to give to our viewers watching this? Let's say they're starting to trade, they're beginners. What are the 3 actionable tips you have for them?
I would say understanding this is going to be a process. If I could go back in time and tell myself it's going to be a longer journey than you think, it would make the journey a lot more better. It would make it just more tangible or more digestible. So where you're not trying to rush. So I think understanding that it's going to take time, and that's okay. Being okay with the journey, I think. And then the second thing is going to be strategy hopping. Like there's a time where you do have to try a few different strategies. But then there's also a time where if you have tried one strategy and it doesn't work for a month, then you try the next one and the next one and the next one. So there's balance, trying to give each strategy its due diligence. Maybe it's market conditions. Maybe it just doesn't fit your personality or your style. So find a balance between giving yourself the ability to try a few different strategies, but then to not be in this endless cycle of strategy hopping to where you just never stick to one. And then kind of talking about that playbook or going back and analyzing. Treat it like a science experiment. Like when you've got that strategy and you think, it works for you and you think it fits you, now let's go back and analyze. Like, have you journaled your trades? Can you go back and see what you've done in the past? That was something that I made a mistake of. I'd be taking every trade as it goes, every day by day, and I wouldn't actually go back and see, okay, oh, there's a common denominator here where these ones aren't working. So I think giving yourself the discipline and structure to journal everything that you're doing so that you can go back and say, okay, this is where I went right, this is where I went wrong. So I think those are like the 3 best tips I could possibly give a beginner.
Okay. And where can they find you if they want to find you on social
anywhere.
media?
Type in Tori Trades on any social media platform.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tori.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Here's a quick question for you, to all the traders watching this episode today. What are the most absolute basic elements of your trading strategy? And if you were to ignore all the other market signals and what other traders are talking about on Reddit or social media, are you able to focus better on a set of basic strategy criteria and execute them consistently? So let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to give us a generous smash on the like button if you have enjoyed this episode with Tori today. If you want to continue your journey and learn from more strategies and experience of other successful traders, you can check out the playlist over here.